All right, welcome back. We continue right here at Pittsburgh CW. Bob Pompeani, Chris Mueller have a lot of tweets. Chris, one of them is from Tom Hagen, who says, Bob and Chris, perhaps you need to read the comments Eckersley made again. The way he said it came across as him finger pointing at individual players in the lineup. No player wants to hear somebody ripping on them on national TV. I'm glad Reynolds and Crow said what they said. Eckersley, to me, came off talking about a cheap organization that has a lineup filled with a bunch of people nobody knows. It wasn't directed at anyone, to me. It was directed at them as an organization. Chris, is that the way you took it?
Yeah, I didn't take it as a shot at the direct players at all. I mean, yes, you're going to be, if you're one of the players who's in that starting lineup, you're going to take it personally to some degree. I understand that. But I'll say again, he had just gotten done talking about how the Royals might be a bad team, but at least it's all of their young guys. It's their future that's supposed to be up on the team playing. And when he said hodgepodge of nothing, he said, this is a thrown-together smattering of players. There's no rhyme or reason to it. And I think he called it pathetic. That, to me, is a commentary on the way that the organization is trotting out lineups, not the people who actually make up the lineups. Those guys want to be offended by it, fine, but I didn't think it was a shot at them whatsoever.
We have another one here from Randy Russell. Says, do they get to 60 wins? And my answer to that, Randy, would be it doesn't matter. They have absolutely devalued what winning means, and I think that's a dangerous thing to go down to, Chris. At some point, you have to understand how to win, what it takes to win. Young guys, people coming up, I think it's going to be hard for them to time all these guys being here together. That's why I think this rebuild is going off the tracks right now. So, does it matter how many wins they really get?
No, it doesn't matter to me, and I think next year is going to be bad too, because I think that they're going to be a team that is setting out to do much the same thing. I mean, do they get to 60 wins? Maybe. They're losing a ton of close games. I was glad Greg Brown today said when we had him on the show that he does not buy into that whole, if you're losing a lot of close ones, that means you're getting closer, because he looked it up and said there was no real correlation the following year. Teams that had a bunch of close losses didn't suddenly turn the corner. I just think that this is right now a situation that's adrift. It's easy to want a rebuild when it's obvious one is needed, and I certainly thought they needed one. When you're actually in the thick of one, it's pretty ugly. And here's the other thing, Bob. We saw this in Detroit. They just fired their GM.
Yeah, the guy.
Rebuild.
Supposed to rebuild.
I think there's this idea among baseball fans, because you've become conditioned to think that there's about 10 teams that are going to spend big money every year, and that's how they're going to operate. There's a handful in the middle, and then there's going to be teams that consistently try for that 3 or 5 year window of contention. Just because you try the rebuild doesn't mean it's actually going to work.
No, and that's a problem. And if it doesn't work, now you're really in bad shape. All right, let's go out to the Bordas and Bordas hotline. We have Al in Bethel Park tonight joining us. First up, what's up, Al? How are you?
Bob, good to see you, buddy.
You too. Thanks.
Hey, Chris, I called you 2 weeks ago, and I gave you a list of small market teams. We talked about Tampa Bay, but Dennis Eckersley is 100% right. It's all about Bob Nutting, who just bought some whiskey thing a while ago.
Well, he's driving fans to drink, so what do you want him to do? That's double downing on investment.
That has nothing to do with him putting money into the baseball team. But the point is, every small market team since 2000 has either been the League Championship Series or the World Series. This is all about Bob Nutting, period. It has nothing to do about the players, big market teams, or baseball teams. Thank God for Dennis Eckersley, because he's not blaming baseball or big market teams. It's all about Bob Nutting. So let's give credit for all the small market teams who have an ownership who try, and Nutting rather buy ski resorts or whiskey things. Chris, I'll hear from you. Thanks.
I mean, I don't think the Rays and the A's necessarily try any harder or
they're better at
less.
it.
They're just better at it. The Rays constantly and consistently find the extra advantage and they exploit it. Right. The A's do the same thing. We're really going to talk about the A's having an owner that really cares when that building fills up with raw sewage on a regular basis in the dugouts? Come on. They just do a way better job of it than the Pirates do. And it makes the Pirates look bad that they can't find a way to continue to exploit advantages and get far into the playoffs, make runs to the World Series or the LCS. You can talk about ownership. You wouldn't be wrong, but those teams just do it better. That's why people get frustrated.
Right. All right, now it's time for our GMC Sierra tweet of the night, and it'll set up some football conversation because this comes to us from PFF, and they say Derwin James and the Chargers agree on a 4-year, $76 million contract extension. First reported by Adam Schefter, he's the highest paid safety in the NFL. So, Chris, it didn't last long for Minkah Fitzpatrick, which leads us into a defensive conversation about what they have in Devin Bush. Yesterday he spoke, And he basically came off, at least the way I viewed it, like, whatever. If I'm not here, I'm not here. I'll be in the NFL. So that's not exactly the kind of answer that you want to hear from a guy who was the 10th overall pick that you've invested a lot of, assets into, and yet here he is not playing well, still not playing well, had 0 tackles the other night. And then today, Brian Flores came to his aid and said, no, he's doing everything we want. The little things you don't see.
I mean,
all I see is a bunch of zeros on the stat sheet.
Yeah, I'm getting very sick of the Devin Bush routine here. I mean, we all know this. He hates the media. He can't stand talking. He's the first time he talked all training camp. He was the last guy on the roster to actually speak with the media. Whatever. I don't care. If you're a great player and you don't want to talk to us, that's one thing. If you're Devin Bush and you're not going to talk very often and people are getting real sick of watching you just not tackle people on the field, be the last guy in jogging towards the pile after the play is over in a preseason game, getting cooked on cutback runs when you're out of position as a fourth-year player, making mental mistakes. People don't want to hear that you're going to be an NFL player, whether it's here or somewhere else. And by the way, Bob, he's been so bad, and other teams are aware of this. I don't care that he was the 10th overall pick. If he thinks he's just going to have an NFL job because of who he is after this season, if he doesn't deliver a good performance, he might be thinking twice here. It might be a special teams job. You think teams are really looking at Devin Bush and saying, now there's somebody we can't wait to get on the cheap? No. He looks like a malcontent right now. He sounds like one, and I really hope, and I'm going to choose to believe this because I think Brian Flores is an excellent coach. I'm going to hope that they are saying nice things about him publicly and excoriating him privately, because if they really feel and believe what they're saying about him, that is a troubling sign.
Mike Tomlin has been known to do that in private sessions where he will make people watch and he'll do it in front of everyone. So I hope that's the case as well. But he needs to respond at some point. So far, we've not seen it, and that could be a problematic situation. Sean Kramer on Twitter says this: after Bush's interview yesterday, guys, he's checked out. He needs to step in. Who needs to step in and talk to him? Coaching staff or veterans on the squad? First of all, I think he needs to come to the realization that he's not playing well. He seems to deflect that, like, yeah, I'm good. I'm an NFL player. Well, so far you're not playing like one. In the last couple of years, it's been bad.
Bob, he said literally when he was asked about being the or on the depth chart with Robert Spillane.
Which is a bad thing.
He said, we've got 3 good players for the position. He said, It's not a shot at me if that's what you're thinking. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Robert Spillane is supposed to be a ham and eggs, special teams, situational guy. The idea that you, the 10th overall pick in a draft not that long ago, are listed as an or on the depth chart with him, college style, that is a shot at you. Whether you want to live in fantasy land and believe it or not, it's a shot. And that, by the way, to go back to the Flores thing, I think Tomlin listing him as or with Spillane is all you need to know about how they privately feel about him, because they made it public with that depth chart.
Brian in McCandless joins us right now on the Borders and Borders hotline. Go ahead, Brian.
Hey, Bob and Chris, how are you guys tonight?
Good, thanks.
I believe, and I do agree with everything you're saying about Devin Bush and Mason Rudolph. I had one thought. If Detroit has any interest at all in Mason Rudolph, maybe they could do a package deal and say, take Devin Bush along with it. Maybe you get a pick or two, but loosens up some money. Maybe we can sign somebody else.
First of all, I don't know that they're going to want to take Devin Bush. Their defense, from what I've seen, is okay. I don't think they need that.
You think Dan Campbell wants a guy like Devin Bush on his team? I doubt it.
He would attack his kneecaps probably. All right, we got to go to break on that note. We'll come back. We have calls on the way, 412-575-2600. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. It's nightly, as the title suggests, right here on Pittsburgh CW.